The answering machine's red light pulsed in the darkness like a tiny heartbeat. Maria Delgado stood in her apartment doorway, keys still in hand, grocery bags weighing down her arms. She'd been avoiding that light for 3 weeks now. Every message another well-meaning friend checking if she was okay, if she needed anything, if she'd heard from Carlos. She hadn't, and she didn't want to talk about it. The floorboards groaned under her feet as she crossed the room. San Telmo's old colonial buildings had their charm, but they also had their ghosts settling foundations, pipes that sang in the walls, windows that rattled when buses passed 3 stories below. She set the groceries on the kitchen counter and stared at the machine. 7 messages. The mechanical counter showed 07 in glowing red digits. She pressed play while unpacking milk, bread, the same brand of coffee she'd been buying since university. The first message was her mother, wondering why she hadn't called. The second, her colleague Raphael about tomorrow's presentation. Delete. Delete. She moved through them mechanically, erasing voices like clearing debris. The 6th message started with static. Maria's hand froze halfway to the delete button. Through the crackling interference came a voice distorted, warped, but unmistakably familiar. Her own voice, speaking words she'd never said. "Maria, this is you," the voice from the machine said, distorted but recognizable. "Don't leave the house tomorrow. If you do, I won't be able to send you messages anymore. Please, believe me." The tape clicked off. The apartment fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of tango music drifting up from the cafe on the corner. Maria's reflection stared back at her from the dark, window-hollow eyes, uncombed hair, the same paint-stained sweater she'd worn for 3 days. She rewound the tape and played it again. The voice was hers, but wrong. Like hearing a recording of yourself with a cold, or through water, or from very far away. The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m. She'd been asleep at 3:47, dreaming about blueprints that kept changing their measurements. Maria grabbed her Nokia from her purse and scrolled through the call log. Nothing at that time. She picked up the landline receiver and dialed her own cell phone. It rang in her hand while the earpiece echoed the sound back to her. Not the same distortion, not even close. She played the message a 3rd time, then a 4th, each repetition making it more real and more impossible. The woman on the tape sounded exhausted, desperate, the way Maria felt now, but multiplied by something worse than a broken engagement. The rational part of her brain, the part that calculated load-bearing walls and restoration budgets, offered explanations. Someone playing a prank. Voice synthesis technology, though, in 2006. Who had access to that? Stress hallucinations. Carbon monoxide poisoning from the ancient boiler in the basement. She opened the windows to let in fresh air. The November heat of Buenos Aires summer pushed into the apartment, carrying with it diesel fumes and grilled meat and the laughter of people who weren't receiving impossible messages from themselves. Maria sat on her couch and tapped her pencil against her knee 3 taps. Pause, 3 taps, pause. An old habit from architecture school that Carlos had found endearing until he didn't find anything about her endearing anymore. Tomorrow was Tuesday. She had the Recoleta restoration presentation at 10, lunch with a potential client at 1, site inspection at 3. Cancel them all because of a weird message? She'd already lost her fiancé. She couldn't lose her job too, but the voice had said, "I won't be able to send you messages anymore." Messages, plural, as if this wasn't the first one. Maria went to her bedroom and pulled out the box where she kept old answering machine tapes, a habit from her mother's generation, saving everything just in case. She had 6 tapes dating back 2 years. She loaded them one by one into the machine, fast-forwarding through birthday wishes and appointment confirmations, and Carlos's voice saying he'd be late, always late. On the 4th tape, she found it. The message was from 8 months ago, buried between a dentist appointment reminder and her sister calling from Cordoba. Same static, same distorted voice from the recording. "Maria, the loop closes on November 14th. I'm trying to—" The message cut off abruptly. November 14th. Tomorrow. Maria's hands shook as she rewound the tape. How had she missed this? But she knew how. 8 months ago, she'd been happy. 8 months ago, she'd been planning a wedding and renovating the house in Palermo that she and Carlos would never live in. 8 months ago, a strange message would have been just that. Strange, not worth dwelling on. She pulled out her calendar, the paper one she kept despite Carlos mocking her for not using a digital organizer. November 14th was circled in red ink with Recoleta presentation written in her tight architect's handwriting. Nothing special about the date, just another Tuesday. The tango music from downstairs stopped. In the sudden quiet, Maria could hear her upstairs neighbor's television, a dog barking somewhere, the pulse of her own blood in her ears. She went back to the living room and played the new message again. "If you do, I won't be able to send you messages anymore," the recording repeated. Not, "Something terrible will happen." Not, "You'll be in danger." Just that the messages would stop. It was almost gentle, resigned, the way you'd explain to a child why they couldn't have something they wanted. Maria picked up her phone and dialed Rafael. "Maria?" "It's almost midnight," Rafael answered, his voice thick with sleep. "About tomorrow's presentation," Maria began. "Don't tell me you're backing out," he interrupted. "The Recoleta committee specifically requested you. They loved your work on the Cabildo renovation." She could hear Rafael's kids in the background, his wife telling them to quiet down. Normal life happening in normal homes where the answering machines didn't predict the future. "I might be sick," Maria said hesitantly. "You sound fine," Rafael countered. "It's just, Maria, I know things have been hard since Carlos, but this project could change everything for the firm, for your career. Don't let him take this from you, too." The words stung because they were true. She'd already let Carlos take the apartment they'd picked together, the mutual friends who'd chosen sides, the future she'd sketched in careful architectural lines. She couldn't let him take her work, too. "You're right. I'll be there," Maria said, her voice firm. 10 o'clock sharp. The conference room with the good coffee, Rafael confirmed before hanging up. After Rafael hung up, Maria sat in the dark living room and watched the city lights through her window. Buenos Aires never really slept, just dozed fitfully between traffic surges. She thought about the voice on the tape, her voice, and wondered what version of herself would be desperate enough to call the past. What could happen tomorrow that would make that necessary? She went to the kitchen and made coffee, the strong Argentine brew that would keep her awake whether she wanted it or not. The answering machine's light continued its pulse. She'd played the message so many times she could recite it, but she played it once more. This time she noticed something else. In the background of the recording, barely audible under the static, was a sound she recognized. The distinctive whistle of the old kettle she'd thrown out last month after the handle finally broke. But in the message, it was whistling, as if, whenever the call had come from, that kettle was still whole. Maria's coffee cup trembled in her hands. She set it down and picked up her pencil, tapping it against the counter. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps, pause. Think like an architect. If the building's unstable, you shore up the foundation. If the measurements don't add up, you recalculate. If you receive an impossible message from yourself, you test the impossible. She picked up the phone and dialed her own number, then hung up before the machine could answer. She did it again at 12:47 a.m., letting it ring twice. At 12:53, she let the machine pick up but said nothing, just breathed into the receiver. Each call appeared on the machine's LCD display, the evidence accumulating. Then she tried something else. She dialed her cell phone from the landline and left a message. "Testing. November 13th, 1:15 a.m., she said to herself on the recording. She played it back. Her voice sounded normal, present, real. The distorted message was something else entirely. Maria pulled out paper and started sketching, the way she did with architectural problems. A timeline on one axis, possible events on the other. If the messages were real, and that was a massive if-then somewhere in the future, she had access to technology that could call the past. Or she was in a place where time worked differently. Or the pencil stopped moving. Or tomorrow, something would happen that created a closed loop, where cause and effect twisted back on themselves like an M.C. Escher staircase. The message itself might be the event. By receiving it, she'd already changed tomorrow. By changing tomorrow, she'd create the need to send the message. Her head hurt. She went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. In the mirror, she looked haunted, but then she'd looked that way for 3 weeks. Carlos leaving had hollowed her out, and now this impossible situation was filling the hollow with something worse than grief. She returned to the living room and found a new message on the machine. The LCD showed Error 1, one new message, received while she was in the bathroom. Her hand hesitated over the play button. The apartment felt smaller suddenly, as if the walls were drawing in. She pressed play, static first, then her voice again, more distorted than before. "Maria, you're testing the system. I did the same thing. It doesn't help. Just please, don't leave tomorrow. Don't complete the loop." Maria's legs gave out. She sat hard on the couch, staring at the machine. She'd been in the bathroom for less than 2 minutes. The call log on the machine showed no incoming call. The message had simply appeared, manifested, materialized from nowhere. She wanted to call someone, her sister, her mother, even Carlos. But what would she say? That she was getting phone calls from the future? They'd think the breakup had finally broken her. Maybe it had. The tango music started up again downstairs, a slow, mournful tune about lost love and missed chances. Maria recognized it, Vulva, though she couldn't remember the singer. She went to her window and looked down at the cafe. A couple was dancing on the sidewalk, the woman's red dress spinning out like a flower blooming in fast motion. They looked happy, unhaunted, free. The morning came anyway, indifferent to impossible messages and temporal paradoxes. Maria hadn't slept. She'd spent the night at her drafting table, covering sheets of paper with diagrams that looked more like abstract art than architecture, circles with arrows pointing back to themselves, timelines that curved and intersected, the number 14 written over and over until it lost all meaning. At 7, she showered and dressed in her best professional outfit, the charcoal suit that made her look like someone who had answers instead of someone who spent the night talking to their answering machine. She made coffee and toast, normal morning rituals that felt like acting in a play about her own life. The machine still showed 08 messages. She'd added one more around 4 in the morning, her own voice asking her future self, "Why? Just tell me why." No response had come. Outside, San Telmo was waking up. The antique dealers rolling up their metal shutters, the smell of media lunas from the bakery, the screech of buses that should have been retired a decade ago. Maria stood at her door with her portfolio under one arm, her hand on the doorknob. One twist and she'd be in the hallway. Down 3 flights, and she'd be on the street. A 20-minute bus ride to the Recoleta office. A presentation that could change her career. Or she could stay inside and become one of those people who let fear make them small. The doorknob was cool under her palm. She thought about the message, "Don't complete the loop," and wondered what loop could be worse than the one she was already in, circling the drain of her life since Carlos left. She opened the door. The hallway stretched before her, dim and familiar. Mrs. Rodriguez's cat sat by her door, waiting to be let in. The fluorescent light flickered the way it had for 2 years. Nothing apocalyptic, nothing unusual. Maria locked her apartment and headed down the stairs. "Maria, you look nice today," her neighbor Jorge called out as he came up the stairs, carrying his bicycle. He smiled at her, the same way he did every morning, though usually she was in jeans and a paint-stained shirt. "Important meeting," Maria replied. "Go knock them dead," Jorge said with enthusiasm. She almost laughed at the expression. If only he knew she was defying a warning from her future self. But then Jorge would think she was crazy too, and she liked having one person in the building who still treated her normally. The bus ride to Recoleta was uneventful. She got a seat by the window and watched Buenos Aires scroll by the jacaranda trees beginning their purple bloom, the dog walkers in the parks with their tangles of leashes, the businessmen reading newspapers that would be obsolete in a few years when smartphones took over. Maria touched her Nokia in her pocket, wondering if future her was trying to call right now, getting a busy signal across time. The Recoleta office was all glass and steel, a modernist insertion into a neighborhood of French-style mansions and elaborate tombs. Maria had always appreciated the contrast, the way the new building deferred to the old without mimicking it. Good architecture was about conversation between past and present. Now that thought made her nervous. Raphael was waiting in the lobby with 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one without asking. After 3 years of working together, he knew she needed caffeine, like plants needed light. "You made it," Raphael said with evident relief. "Did you think I wouldn't?" Maria asked, taking the cup. "You sounded strange on the phone last night." Maria took a sip of coffee to avoid responding. It was the good stuff, not the bitter brew from the break room. Raphael was pulling out all the stops. "The committee's already here," Raphael continued as they headed toward the elevator. "They brought someone from the Heritage Foundation. This could be big, Maria. They're talking about a whole series of restorations." They rode the elevator to the 7th floor. Maria's reflection in the polished doors looked composed, professional, nothing like the woman who'd spent the night drawing temporal diagrams. She straightened her suit jacket and followed Raphael to the conference room. The presentation went perfectly. Maria explained her vision for the Recoleta mansion restoration, preserving the French Second Empire facade while modernizing the infrastructure. She showed her sketches, the way she'd integrate climate control without disrupting the original moldings. The committee members nodded, asked intelligent questions, smiled at her solutions. "This is exactly what we're looking for," the Heritage Foundation representative said warmly. "Someone who respects history without being enslaved by it." The irony wasn't lost on her. By noon she had a contract to review and a promise of more work to come. Raphael took her to lunch at the expensive restaurant around the corner, the one they only went to when they'd landed big clients. He ordered champagne. "To Maria Delgado," Raphael toasted, raising his glass, who didn't let anything stop her. The champagne tasted like victory and ash. She'd defied the message. She'd left the house. She'd given the presentation. And nothing bad had happened. The world hadn't ended. She hadn't died. The loop, whatever it was, remained uncompleted. "I have to make a call," Maria said, standing up abruptly. In the restaurant bathroom, Maria dialed her apartment from her cell phone. The answering machine picked up after 4 rings. Her own voice, recorded weeks ago in a different lifetime, asked callers to leave a message. "This is Maria," she said to herself on the recording. "It's 12:47 p.m. on November 14th. I left the house. I'm fine. Everything's fine." She hung up and stared at herself in the mirror. The fluorescent lights made her skin look green. Or maybe that was just the champagne and sleeplessness. She splashed water on her face and returned to the table. The afternoon passed in a blur of contracts and plans. She did the site inspection, measured rooms that had stood for 100 years, took photographs of crown molding and parquet floors that needed love and expertise. Normal work, good work. The kind that made her forget about impossible phone calls. It was nearly 6 when she finally headed home. The sun was setting over the Rio de la Plata, painting the city gold and orange. The bus was crowded with office workers, everyone tired, everyone eager to be somewhere else. Maria found herself checking her phone repeatedly, but no calls came. Her apartment building's entrance was dark. The bulb had burned out again. She climbed the stairs by memory and muscle, her hand finding her keys automatically. The hallway was empty. Mrs. Rodriguez's cat was gone. Normal evening, normal life. But when she opened her apartment door, she knew something was wrong. Nothing was out of place. Her coffee cup still sat on the counter where she'd left it. Her diagrams still covered the drafting table. But the air felt different, charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. And the answering machine was blinking. 12 messages. Maria set down her portfolio and approached the machine slowly. 12 messages in 6 hours. She pressed play. The first 11 were silence. Not hang-ups, silence. The kind that comes from an open line with nothing on the other end. Each one lasted exactly 37 seconds before cutting off. The 12th was her voice, but not distorted this time. Clear and present and speaking words she hadn't said yet. "This is Maria. It's 12:47 p.m. on November 14th. I left the house. I'm fine. Everything's fine." The message she'd left from the restaurant. Already there. Already received. Maria's knees buckled. She grabbed the counter for support. The loop wasn't about preventing disaster. It was about the loop itself. By leaving the house, by making that call, she'd started something that bent back on itself. The phone rang. She stared at it, her hand frozen above the receiver. It rang again, and again. On the 4th ring, the machine picked up. "Maria," her own voice said through the speaker, clear and urgent, and definitely from now, "pick up the phone. I know you're there. We need to talk." She picked up the receiver with trembling fingers. "Hello?" Maria said cautiously. "Finally," the voice on the phone replied, tired in a way that went beyond exhaustion. "Do you understand yet?" "Understand what?" Maria asked. "That it doesn't matter what we do. Leave the house. Stay inside. The loop completes either way. The only difference is how long it takes." Maria's free hand found her pencil, started its nervous tap against her thigh. "Who are you?" "I'm you. 6 hours from now. Or maybe 6 years. Time gets fuzzy when you're inside it." "That's impossible," Maria said, though the words felt hollow. "Everything about this is impossible. But here we are." "The future," Maria sighed, and it was a sound that carried weight. "I need to tell you what happens next." "No." Maria surprised herself with the word. "Don't tell me." "But," her future self began, "if you tell me, and I do something different because of what you said, then that becomes the loop. The information itself is the trap." Silence on the other end. Then a laugh that sounded like crying. "God, we're smart. Too smart. That's exactly right. That's exactly the conclusion I came to. Which means you will too. Which means we're already in it," Maria finished. "We've always been in it," her future self confirmed. Maria sat down on the kitchen floor, her back against the cabinet. The phone cord stretched above her like an umbilical connection to her own future. How does it start? The first message? Who sends the very first message? There is no first. That's what I've been trying to understand. It's like asking where a circle begins. Every version of us receives the warning, ignores it, and becomes the version that sends it. We think we're preventing something, but we're just maintaining it. So we stop. We break the pattern. "I won't call myself," Maria said with determination. "You will." The certainty in her future self's voice was devastating. "Not because you choose to, but because you have to. Because you already have. Because somewhere, somewhen, we already did." Maria felt tears running down her cheeks. She hadn't cried since Carlos left, and now she was crying over temporal metaphysics. There has to be a way out. If there is, I haven't found it. And neither did the version who called me or the one who called her, her future self said wearily. "How many of us are there?" Maria asked. "Infinite. Every moment that passes creates another one. We're like frames in a film strip, each one believing we're the real one, the present one." The apartment was growing dark. Maria hadn't turned on the lights, and the sun had fully set. Only the red pulse of the answering machine and the city glow through the windows provided illumination. She felt something building in her chest, not panic, but something else. A pressure, an urgency, a need she didn't understand. "I feel it," Maria said quietly. "Feel what?" her future self asked. "The compulsion. To call. To warn myself. But I haven't even. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to make sense. It just is." Maria's hand was already moving toward the phone's number pad. She watched it like it belonged to someone else, her fingers finding the digits of her own number without conscious thought. The pressure in her chest was becoming unbearable, like holding her breath underwater, like resisting the urge to blink. "Don't fight it," her future self said gently. "Fighting makes it worse. I tried. We all try." "This is insane," Maria said. "Yes." Maria's finger hovered over the final digit. One press and she'd be calling her own machine, leaving a message for past her, the one who was probably just getting home from work yesterday, tired and heartbroken and unprepared for temporal impossibilities. "Wait," Maria said suddenly. "If you're me from 6 hours ahead, then you've already made your call." "Yes," her future self confirmed. "To who?" "To you. Tomorrow. The you that you'll become." Maria's brain felt like it was folding in on itself. "But that means nothing. Don't try to map it. I spent 3 days drawing diagrams before I realized the topology doesn't exist in 3 dimensions. Or 4. The loop exists outside normal space-time." 3 days? But you said 6 hours, Maria said, confused. "I said time gets fuzzy. I've been in my apartment for 3 days, but I'm only 6 hours ahead of you. Or maybe I'm lying. Maybe I'm actually you from next year or last year, or from an alternate timeline where Carlos never left." At Carlos's name, Maria felt something shift. The compulsion to dial lessened slightly. "Is that what this is about? Carlos?" A pause. "No. Carlos is gone in every timeline I've contacted." "How many?" Maria started. 17. 17 versions of us, all post-breakup, all receiving messages, all eventually sending them. The loop predates Carlos, or postdates, or exists independently of him." Maria stood up, still holding the phone. Her legs were numb from sitting on the floor. She walked to the window, dragging the phone cord behind her. The cafe below was full of life couples dancing, friends laughing, normal people living in normal time. "What if I just hang up?" Maria asked. "What if I put down the phone and never pick it up again?" "Try it," her future self said simply. Maria pulled the receiver from her ear, stared at it. Such a simple thing. Molded plastic, copper wires, electromagnets converting sound to signal and back again. She could hang up. She could cut the cord. She could throw the whole phone out the window. But her hand wouldn't open. Her fingers remained locked around the receiver as if fused to it. The pressure in her chest was spreading now, up into her throat, down into her stomach, a physical need as basic as breathing. She brought the phone back to her ear. "I can't," Maria admitted. "I know," her future self said softly. "This is hell," Maria said. "No," her future self replied. "Hell would be knowing why this is happening. We don't even get that comfort." Maria laughed, or maybe sobbed. The sound was ambiguous even to her. "So what do I do?" "What we all do. You complete your part of the loop. You make the call. You send the warning. And then you wait for the next you to call, and you tell her what I'm telling you." "Forever?" Maria asked. "Until you figure out how to break it? Or until you stop existing? Or until time itself ends?" "I don't know. None of us know." Maria looked at the number pad again. Her fingers were already moving, pressing the digits. She tried to stop them, but it was like trying to stop her heart from beating. The phone rang once, twice. "Wait," Maria said urgently to her future self. "The kettle. In the first message, I heard my old kettle, the one I threw out. But if the messages only go backward, temporal interference," her future self explained. "Sometimes the signals cross. Sometimes you hear echoes from loops that shouldn't exist. The kettle might be from a parallel loop, or a degraded signal, or—" The line went dead, not hung up dead. The silence was absolute, as if the phone had never worked at all. Maria's fingers finished dialing. Her own answering machine picked up, her own voice asking callers to leave a message. The beep sounded like a judge's gavel. "Maria, this is you," she said. The words coming without thought, pulled from some deep place that existed outside her control. "Don't leave the house tomorrow. If you do, I won't be able to send you messages anymore. Please, believe me." She hung up. The pressure in her chest released instantly, leaving her gasping. She dropped the phone and collapsed onto the couch, her whole body shaking. The answering machine's light blinked steadily, recording her message into the past, into the loop, into the infinite chain of Marias all warning each other about a danger that was just the warning itself. An hour passed. Maybe 2. Maria didn't move. She watched the ceiling, the cracks in the plaster that looked like rivers or veins or the branches of a decision tree that all led to the same outcome. The tango music downstairs had stopped. The city was quieting into its late-night murmur. The phone rang. She didn't want to answer it, but her body was already moving. Her hand found the receiver, brought it to her ear. "Maria?" It was her voice again, but different, younger, confused. Am I talking to myself?" "Yes," Maria said quietly. "I just got home. There's a message on my machine. From me. From you. I don't understand," the younger version said, her words tumbling over each other. "I know," Maria replied. "Is this real?" the younger Maria asked. Maria closed her eyes. She could lie. She could tell this younger version younger by a day, an hour, a minute, that it was all a prank, a hallucination, a dream. But the loop required truth. The loop required participation. "It's real," Maria said. "And I'm sorry." "Sorry for what?" the younger version asked. "For what happens next. For the fact that knowing doesn't help. For the call you're going to make, and the one after that, and the one after that." "I don't," the younger Maria began. "You will," Maria said with sad certainty. Silence. Then, "Is there a way out?" "If there is, I haven't found it," Maria admitted. "Maybe if we work together," the younger version suggested hopefully. "We are working together. All of us, all the versions, all trying to solve the same impossible problem. But we can't share information forward, only backward, and the past versions don't believe until it's too late." "I believe you," the younger Maria said firmly. Maria sat up. That was new. She hadn't believed, not at first. "You do?" "Carlos left 3 weeks ago. Since then, nothing has felt real anyway. This is just another impossibility in a world full of them." Maria felt tears coming again. This version was different, not in any measurable way, but in some essential quality. Or maybe that was just hope, the last delusion before acceptance. "Listen," Maria said carefully. "Tomorrow you're going to have a choice. Stay home or leave. I chose to leave. I don't know what happens if you stay." "Did leaving cause this?" the younger version asked. "I think the choice itself causes it. The moment of decision creates the split that becomes the loop. Then I won't choose. I'll flip a coin. I'll let random chance decide," the younger Maria said with sudden inspiration. Maria wanted to tell her it wouldn't work, that she'd tried that they'd all tried everything, but she hadn't tried it. This was new territory, a variation in the pattern. "Maybe," Maria said cautiously. "Maybe that could—" The line went dead again. The phone became a useless piece of plastic in her hand. Maria set it down and walked to her drafting table. All her diagrams from the night before looked like the work of a madman. Circles and arrows and timestamps that meant nothing. She picked up her pencil and started drawing again. Not diagrams this time, but architecture. The Recoleta mansion she was supposed to restore. She drew it from memory, every window, every door, every piece of ornamental stonework. She drew it as it was, and as it could be, and as it would never be if she remained trapped in this apartment, in this loop, in this infinite now. The phone rang again. She didn't answer. It rang 12 times, then stopped. The answering machine clicked on, but no message was left. Just breathing, then a hang-up. Maria kept drawing. She added details to the mansion garden paths, a fountain, trees that would grow over decades. She was creating a future on paper since she couldn't seem to reach one in reality. The phone rang again. This time she answered. "Why didn't you pick up before?" Her own voice on the line, angry and afraid. "Because I'm trying something different," Maria replied calmly. "Different doesn't work. I tried different. We all try different," the voice said bitterly. "Then what's the point?" Maria asked. A long pause. "The point is that we're still here, still conscious, still experiencing time, even if it's broken. That has to mean something." "Does it?" Maria said. "I don't know, but it's all we have." Maria set down her pencil. Outside she could hear sirens in the distance, the city's nightly symphony of emergency. "Tell me something." "What?" the voice asked. "Anything. Something you learned in your extra time, your 3 days or 6 hours or whatever it is. I learned that the loop isn't perfect. There are gaps, moments where the signal fails, where the connection breaks. In those gaps, we're free. Free to do what? Maria asked. Nothing. Everything. Exist without purpose. Maria laughed, genuine this time. That's what I was doing before all this started. No, before you were waiting, for Carlos to come back, for life to restart, for something to change. Now you're just being, the voice said with strange wisdom. It was true. In the spaces between phone calls, between messages, between the compulsions to complete the loop, Maria felt more present than she had in months. The heartbreak was still there, but it had been superseded by something larger and stranger. Are you still there? Her future self asked. Yes, Maria confirmed. I have to go. I feel it building again. The need to call. Who will you call? Maria asked. You. Tomorrow. Always tomorrow, the voice said with resignation. Wait. What if we called someone else? What if we broke the chain by warning someone who isn't us? Maria suggested urgently. Silence. Then, I tried. The phone only dials one number, our number. The loop is closed. The line went dead. Maria sat in the darkness of her apartment, the city lights painting rectangles on her walls. She thought about all the versions of herself, stretched across time like pearls on an infinite string, each one alone in this apartment, each one having this conversation, each one searching for an escape that might not exist. She picked up the phone and dialed. Not her own number, Carlos's. It rang 4 times before his machine picked up. His voice, casual and careless. Leave a message. Carlos, Maria said to the recording, her voice steady. It's Maria. I just wanted you to know that something impossible is happening to me. And for once it's not about you. I'm caught in something I don't understand, but I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not hoping you'll come back. I'm just dealing with it. And that's a kind of freedom, I guess. Goodbye. She hung up. The compulsion to call herself was building again, stronger now, irresistible. Her fingers found the numbers without her permission. Ring, ring, click. Hello? Her own voice, but different again. Tired, defeated. It's me, Maria said. Which me? The voice asked flatly. Does it matter? No. They sat in silence. 2 versions of the same person separated by time, connected by impossibility. I'm going to try something, Maria said finally. What? The other Maria asked warily. I'm going to leave. Right now. Walk out of this apartment and not come back. You can't. The compulsion, the other started, only happens here. Only with this phone. What if the loop is tied to this place? And if it follows you? The other Maria asked. Then at least I'll know. Maria stood up, still holding the phone. She walked to the door, opened it. The hallway was dark and empty. Are you really doing this? The other Maria asked, disbelief in her voice. Yes, Maria said, but the messages will keep coming, or they won't. Either way, I won't be here to receive them. She stepped into the hallway. The phone cord stretched, then went taut. She pulled, and the base unit fell off the table, clattering on the floor. The line went dead. Maria stood in the hallway, free of the phone for the first time in hours. The compulsion was still there, a constant pressure, but without the phone, she couldn't act on it. She walked to the stairs, then down, each step taking her farther from the loop's center. The street was empty except for a cat prowling along the gutter. Maria turned toward the river, toward the edge of the city, toward whatever came next. She didn't know if she was escaping or just extending the loop into new territory. But she was moving, and that was enough. Behind her, 3 stories up, the answering machine's red light pulsed in the darkness, recording nothing, waiting for messages that would come or wouldn't. The loop spinning on without her, or because of her, or in spite of her. Maria walked until dawn, until her feet hurt and her mind cleared. She found herself at the Recoleta cemetery, among the elaborate tombs and carved angels. The gates were locked, but she could see through the bars to the city of the dead. All those stories ended, all those loops closed. Her phone, her cellular rang. She looked at the Nokia's little screen, her home number. She didn't answer. It rang again, and again, and again. Then, silence. Maria sat on a bench and watched the sunrise paint the cemetery gold. She thought about the Recoleta mansion, about the presentation she'd given yesterday that felt like a lifetime ago. She could go to the office. She could work on the restoration. She could pretend the loop never happened, or she could accept that it had happened, was happening, would always be happening somewhere in the cascade of time. That somewhere, infinite versions of herself were trapped in infinite apartments, making infinite calls, warning each other about warnings. Her phone rang one more time. This time she answered. "You can't run from it," her own voice said, exhausted beyond measure. "I'm not running. I'm just not participating," Maria replied. "That's not possible," the voice said. "Everything about this is impossible. Maybe impossible is the new possible." A laugh that might have been a sob. "I hope you're right." "Me too," Maria said quietly. "Maria?" the voice said, softer now. "Yes? The sun is rising here. I can see it through the window. It's beautiful." "I know," Maria said, looking at the golden light spreading across the cemetery. "Do you think we'll ever understand what happened?" the voice asked. Maria watched a groundskeeper unlock the cemetery gates, beginning another day of tending to the dead. No, but maybe understanding isn't the point. Maybe the point is just to witness it. To witness our own imprisonment? The voice asked bitterly. To witness our own existence even when it's impossible, Maria said. The line went quiet, but not dead. Two versions of Maria, breathing across time, sharing silence. Finally, her future self spoke. "I have to go. The compulsion." "I know," Maria said. "Will you go back?" the voice asked. "No." "Then where?" "Forward. Always forward. Even when forward leads back to the beginning." The line went dead. Maria put her phone away and stood up. The city was waking around her. Buses growling to life, cafes opening their shutters, people beginning their loops of work and home and work again. She walked toward the Recoleta office. She had a restoration to plan, a mansion to save from time. The loop would continue without her, or with her, or through her, but she would continue too, one moment after another, building something beautiful in the ruins of the impossible. Her phone stayed silent, for now.